Despite being a pretty reprehensible human being, the Joker has captured the imaginations of audiences for decades. He's probably the most well-known villain of all comic books, if not all media period. We'll discuss how he came to be and give you an overview of how he evolved to his current iteration. Before we begin, subscribe to CBR and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never ever miss a video. Also, be sure to check out our friends over at Screen Rant for more about this infamous villain. Without further ado, here's the evolution of the Joker. One of the many interesting things about comic book history is how real-life events often influence the characters and storylines. And we aren't just talking about having celebrity guest stars like that time Freddie Prinze Jr. faced off against the Incredible Hulk. Superheroes and their villains often grow out of what is really going on in the world. Captain America was the shining example of patriotism during World War II, and during that same time period, we saw Superman emerge as the hero of the everyman. One of the reasons Batman has stood out as one of the greatest heroes of all time is because he's been able to adapt and change since his character was first introduced in DC Comics. Not only has Batman and his roster of sidekicks undergone many changes, but so have his villains. His most infamous nemesis is undoubtedly the Joker, and he's evolved right along with Batman. Batman's origin story may be the most well-known one around. His parents were the victims of a violent crime, leading to little Bruce Wayne growing up and vowing to dedicate his life to fighting crime. Batman has gone from comic books to movie screens and even has a few cartoons under his belt. Far less known are the origin stories of his arch-nemesis, the Joker. One thing which makes the Joker such a compelling villain is the same reason many people love Batman. He has no real superpowers. The Joker is just a very clever man with a talent for manipulation and a lot of resources at his disposal. It's actually funny that he's become one of the most long-lasting and iconic characters of all time, considering the fact that he was always dying in the comic books. For a while, his most noteworthy attribute were the various creative ways in which he perished. But for now, let's talk about how the character we now know as the Joker came to be, and for a real-life origin story, it's pretty complex. 3 different people are credited with his creation: Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry Robinson. Each of them have their own version for how he was created, and each believe they deserve most of the credit. It starts out with a simple Joker card sketch done by Jerry Robinson. Although it bears a similarity to the Joker, it's not the only source of inspiration. Bob Kane credits the character Gwynplaine from the 1928 film The Man Who Laughs with inspiring the iconic character. Bill Finger showed him a photo of actor Conrad Veidt in costume, and the wheels began to turn in their heads. Batman first appeared in Detective Comics number 27, which was released in 1939, but soon received his very own series. Batman number 1 featured 2 villains that fans will undoubtedly recognize: Catwoman and the Joker. In the issue, Joker set a dangerous toxin loose across Gotham, which is pretty much now known as a classic Joker move. But at the time, they weren't planning on Joker sticking around long enough for it to become a thing. In fact, Kane and Finger were all set for Joker to meet his end in the 2nd issue. However, then editor Whitney Ellsworth turned out to be the first person to save the Joker by vetoing that idea. Just think. No Joker would mean no Harley Quinn, which would have changed the Halloween costume history of so many people. His story has been retconned a ridiculous amount of times, and in The Killing Joke, the character himself remarks that he doesn't really remember his own origin story. So, if you don't know any of them, don't feel too bad. The Joker doesn't either. Even his name is questionable, and he's been known by many others over the years in both the comic books and the movies. But the most canon name, besides Puddin', is Jack Napier. That was his name in Batman the Animated Series, Tim Burton's Batman, and Batman White Knight. Fans of the Joker weren't treated to an origin story until 11 years after his first appearance in the comic books. According to Detective Comics number 168, he was a villain known as the Red Hood. While trying to escape from Batman, he ended up face down in a vat of acid, thus giving him his signature appearance and a serious grudge. The most well-known and widely accepted origin story expanded on this concept. In The Killing Joke by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland, they added a sad backstory to the Joker's past. He was a failed stand-up comedian struggling to support a pregnant wife when he again ended up in a vat of acid. There have been many other stories, some of which paint Joker as a perfectly sane man who simply loves dressing up like a clown and committing crimes. One of the many reasons we love the Joker so much is that he's the perfect foil to Batman. Our hero loves order, reason, justice, and lurking on rooftops. For the most part, he's pretty stable, and as the Joker would claim, predictable. On the other hand, we have the Joker, who's totally different from one movie to the next. Let's talk about the 1989 Batman movie directed by Tim Burton. Although we all know actor Jack Nicholson ended up playing the Joker, the part very nearly went to John Lithgow instead. Years later, he said he regrets turning down the role, which we're guessing is quite the understatement. In this movie, we saw Jack Napier as a sarcastic and cantankerous mobster who made the poor career move of hooking up with his boss's girlfriend. It was such a bad move that it ultimately ended up with him face down in a vat of acid once again. Seeing his disfigured face caused Jack Napier to lose his remaining shred of sanity and go full force into becoming the Joker. In addition to his other evil deeds, we learn he was the one who killed Batman's parents all those years ago. Finally, at the end of the movie, we see the Joker meet his end. The interesting part about the Joker's role in this movie is that his story has a very clear beginning, middle, and end. We see his transformation into the Joker, get to his origin, and see his death all neatly wrapped up with a cute little Joker-colored bow. This was the first time many people had been introduced to the Joker, so it makes sense that a lot of information and backstory was packed into that movie. But soon, the character would go even more off the rails. The Joker was a prominent villain in 1992's Batman the Animated Series. This is also where we met Dr. Harleen Quinzel, who would go on to become Harley Quinn. Initially in the show, the Joker was much like he is in the comic books. The only problem with this is that in most of the books, he's a homicidal maniac, and this was a show for kids. One scene featuring the Joker getting shot with a fake gun with a bang flag was almost enough for the entire series to get pulled, and that scene was later released in a PG-13 version. Considering the other versions of the Joker that we've seen, it's pretty funny that he got censored for this. After this scandal, the Joker was given a much less scary-looking redesign. The only problem was that fans hated it, and even some of the producers were upset about it. His old design was brought back in subsequent series like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Although there have been so many versions of the Joker, a fan favorite was the one voiced by Star Wars star Mark Hamill. In addition to various animated TV shows featuring the Joker, he also voiced him in the animated movie Mask of the Phantasm. The movie was intended to go straight to video, but was given a theatrical release with short notice. Because of this, it was a box office flop, but became a cult favorite with fans. The Joker in this movie was similar to the one shown in earlier seasons of Batman the Animated Series. Then, of course, we have the version of the Joker which broke new ground for many fans. Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker was absolutely incredible, and so different than what we had seen so far. In the Tim Burton movie and the animated series, it was very clear that the Joker was a comic book character. Even in the live-action movie, he seemed like a cartoon character brought to life. But in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, we saw a much more organic take on the Joker. Makeup artist John Caglione Jr. explained that he approached the makeup and costuming as if the Joker was a legitimately insane human being. The sort of person who slept in his makeup and clothing for days or weeks at a time. The idea was to present a madman in makeup instead of a person who had suffered an acid-related accident. This version of the Joker was influenced by the graphic novels Batman the Killing Joke and Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. As for an origin story, the Joker gave several explanations for his appearance, all of which were different and occasionally contradictory. This Joker was truly an agent of chaos, and the story focused on his actions rather than his past, and didn't leave things neatly tied up by the time credits rolled. This was a massive departure from the norm, and one fans responded to in a huge way. While Heath Ledger's Joker got rave reviews, Jared Leto's got mixed reviews at best. Even Suicide Squad director David Ayer admits there were some mistakes made. He felt his facial tattoo went too far, and not making him the main villain of the film was a mistake. In his defense, Leto had huge shoes to fill, but still the character was problematic. The character was shoehorned into the plot and failed to live up to expectations. The Joker is a larger-than-life character, but Suicide Squad reduced him to a criminal with a bad attitude. Gone were the clever schemes and evil twists which made previous versions of the Joker so compelling to watch. Even his eerie, evil laugh was more grating than anything. This movie made it clear that just having the Joker show up isn't enough. He has to be portrayed correctly. Sure, he's more like a real human being in this movie, but almost too much so. Right now, the Joker everyone's talking about is the one portrayed by actor Joaquin Phoenix. Fans can expect to see another standalone Joker movie in October 2019. After Suicide Squad, fans were disappointed by the direction the Joker had been taken in. We were apprehensive at first when we heard about this movie, but now we gotta admit we're kind of intrigued. Pictures of Joaquin Phoenix in his Joker makeup have surfaced, and he looks way more like a regular clown than we're used to seeing lately. In fact, he looks a lot like the original Gwynplaine from The Man Who Laughs. We also can't help but wonder if the Joker actually works as a clown at some point in the story. Could we be getting an all-new origin story? At the very least, these pictures give us hope that the Joker may be going back to the basics in terms of his character and storylines. Hopefully, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker takes what worked from the comics and translates it onto the big screen. We know we can't wait to see more pictures of his creepy on-set costume. Well, there you have it. Which version of the Joker is your favorite? Is he your favorite villain of all time? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.